Okay.
Wouldn't that be weird if that was real life? You're just trying to talk to someone and you're like, what the fork are you doing?
Yeah.
What's forking going on?
That reminds me of the Isn't It Romantic movie with Rebel Wilson and Chris Hemsworth.
Yes.
And it gets to the sex scene and she's like, oh yeah, I'm ready. It's the rom-com, so it just cuts off and she's like, what?
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 I love that. That was hilarious.
You know what else is hilarious, Morgan?
What?
Millennial Monologue.
Is that where we're at right now?
That is exactly where we're at right now.
Well, I appreciate you informing me of all the things, Casey Lowenthal.
I try. When do we cue theme music?
Right now. Cue
Okay.
theme music. It's a good time. Theme music by Jared Lee French.
Thank you. We do a lot of weird voices in this, but I think that's okay.
It's fine. Totally fine. People enjoy it. We're actors. We're not supposed to have the same persona every time we are recording, right?
Didn't you know all actors are so distrustworthy?
Yes, I did. I don't know if I can trust you on that.
It's like, what's that old thing? It's like a myth of the two oracles, and it's like one of them always lies and the other one always tells the truth.
Oh, yeah.
That would be a real mind fuck.
Do you think there really are, like, in real life, if there's like a set of twins out there somewhere, like identical twins, who one is a compulsive liar?
There's just one set of identical twins out there in the world. I think that's highly probable.
Because I'm smart. I need to learn how to phrase my sentences. It's fine.
But yeah, I don't know if there's one that's a compulsive liar and one that's a compulsive truther.
Truther. Whose name is Truther? Hey, you want to play Truth or Dare?
Oh, that's funny.
There she goes again. There she goes again. Everyone missed our singing.
But speaking of dilemmas and mind fucks, welcome to another episode of Castile Soapbox, where I get on my soapbox and talk about veganism. And it's a Castile soapbox because Castile soap is plant-based. We have a grand old time with puns here at Millennial Monologue.
Always. I think that's all we do.
Oh yeah, that's it.
We're punny.
But since we're actors, can you really trust us?
Dun dun dun.
Ta-da!
You can trust us because we're certified podcasters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've been over this.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to our other episodes, and you'll realize very quickly it's true.
Where you been at? Oh my god.
And see, even if Morgan and I are the identical twins, that one of us always lies and one of us always tells the truth, we're both saying that this is an amazing podcast, so do with that what you will.
That's so true.
But today, the great quandary I wanted to start a conversation on,
yes,
is it okay for vegans to buy, use, and wear secondhand clothing that comes from animals? So like clothing that's not vegan. So things that fall into that category. The one that people talk about most is like, should vegans wear secondhand leather? But other things in that category is also silk, which comes from silkworms. And it takes so many little silkworms to make just like a little bit of silk. It's crazy. Then also wool, which comes from sheeps. Cashmere, which comes from goats. Suede, which also comes from cow's hide. Fur, which comes from any animal that has been skinned for their fur. And then down, which comes from goose feather. Or is goose feather. It comes from geese.
Wait. Cashmere is from goat?
I think so. I think there's like a specific... Let me Google that really fast. Because I don't know. I want to say it it's like from a very specific region or a specific type of goat.
I was really surprised at that one. I just never expected goat. You didn't mention llama wool though, so that's safe, right?
That's true. I guess wool can come from a lot of different animals, like llamas and alpacas.
Alpacas.
Um,
I just didn't know what cashmere was because I can't afford it, so I never really investigated it.
yeah, we're both like Nick Miller. I got you cashmere.
Cashmere.
Cashmere. But according to a very quick Google search, cashmere is made from the soft undercoat of cashmere goats who are from China. So most cashmere comes from the goats in the Gobi Desert, which is northern China and stretches into Mongolia. And it says, beneath the animal's coarse hair lies an undercoat of superfine fibers concentrated on the underbelly. So just reading that, I can't imagine that the procurement of cashmere is very pleasant for these goats.
Probably not. No.
And then another thing I just thought of that it took me a while to realize or like really put two and two together, I guess, but this is mostly jewelry, mother of pearl jewelry, which from my understanding is the inside of oysters.
I didn't know that. That's mean.
Yeah.
I don't
And
think
pearls,
I have any mother of pearl jewelry, but
yeah, I guess pearls technically aren't vegan either. Now that we're on that train.
yeah.
But yeah, I used a couple articles when I did my quick little bit of research for this. So I used an article from medium.com that I guess I should have remembered the names of these articles, but oh well. I
We're
used
not
an
actors.
article.
We don't memorize things, so
Right. I also used an article from veganfashionweek.com and then an article from sophiebenson.com. And when I say article, I'm loosely using it. It's more like these were blog posts that people were just expressing their own opinion. Because you'll learn very quickly, especially with this topic, people's opinions are all over the place. I have my own opinion for my own reasons. Yeah, again, like I said last episode, not here to shame anybody, here to start a conversation. I think as long as you have the intention of being kinder to humans and animals and the environment, I think that's a step on the right path, and it's a never-ending journey for all of us. But the medium.com article had a number of quotes that I just loved. I really resonated with the author's point of view. And so I wanted to kick off this episode with a quote from that article. And she said, "Choosing to be kinder to animals isn't a purity competition. It's a lifestyle made up of a never-ending series of personal choices." I didn't realize I used never-ending twice. But yeah, so I think that's a very important thing to highlight. It's a series of personal choices that only you can make the right choice for yourself every single day. Because there's so many things that go into it that a lot of people don't talk about. And so we're going to talk about it.
Yeah.
Let's see. And then, so another quote that she pulled from this article that was basically right after this first one. The whole article, I was like, this is just amazing. Amazing.
Quote.
I'm just going to read you this whole article. No,
today on Millennial Monologue, we're just going to read to you.
Yes. I mean, isn't that how you're supposed to do all your PowerPoint presentations? That's why you make a PowerPoint, so you can just stand there and read off the slides.
Shh, Casey, don't tell them my secrets. How else was I supposed to pass college?
I love it. So another thing she said was, the answer to these questions the answer to these questions so often directly relates to our own privilege, our own needs, and the reason you went vegan in the first place. And I want to underscore that big time, because so many times in the conversation about veganism, there's this innate amount of privilege, especially white veganism, of which I'm a contributing member. I am a white woman talking about veganism. Yeah, so often it's people get up on this high horse when they talk about it, and they try to talk about things in a vacuum, and you don't know what other people are dealing with day to day. And so that's why I'm really big on not shaming, not judging. Everybody is doing the best they can at that moment, whether they realize it or not, whether you realize it or not. So, yeah, like I said, we're going to be talking about a lot of the things I pulled were mainly talking about like vegans and secondhand leather because that's the biggest hot button topic. But this applies to all animal dry fabric. So, like I said, silk, I I thought I knew the definition between silk, the distinction between silk and satin, and I wanted to double check, and I was right. So silk is a natural fiber that comes from silkworms. Satin is a type of weave, mostly made from synthetic fibers. Um, Silk is silky on both sides, very soft on both sides. Satin has like, and for anybody who sews, there's a right side and a wrong side. It's softer on one side. Um, and there are different types of satin weaves. So I know lately a lot of people have, myself included, been getting on the, oh, I want to keep my hair from breaking less. It's better for my skin to sleep on a satin pillowcase, or like it used to be silk pillowcase or like silk scarves for your hair. But now people are realizing, one, it's a heck ton cheaper to do satin.
Uh-huh.
Because again, it takes thousands and thousands and thousands of silkworms to make that silk. So it's more accessible for a lot of people to get satin, and you get pretty much the same effects. So,
Oh, that's good to know. I have a satin
yeah.
cover for my pillow, but I use it mostly so that I don't have to wash my actual pillowcase. I just put on the satin
Ooh,
cover and then take it off and throw it in the
interesting.
wash because I'm
Interesting.
lazy. Welcome to millennialism.
Yay! I like it because it makes me feel bougie.
Exactly. Yeah. It is very soft though. You're right. It's
Hmm.
I don't think I'd be able to really tell a difference between silk and satin. I don't think I own anything silk, but they're both really smooth. As long as you
Hmm.
don't look at the other side, I don't see the problem.
Yeah. When my hair was longer and I first switched to a satin pillowcase, my hair and my hair is naturally very wavy, curly. And it's very fine. My hair didn't get in knots hardly ever. So that's when I was like, I'm a convert.
I'm a convert. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Us
Um,
straight, fine-haired people don't have any problems.
did you know, Morgan? You may have known, but listeners, have you known? So, according to the EPA website, and this just covered the United States from what I could tell, in 2017, 16.9 million tons of waste was textiles.
I know the audience can't see it, but I think my eyes just fell out of my head.
Yeah, and I can't even fathom that amount of things. And so textiles includes more than clothes. It includes like any cloth, anything like that. So you're also including like pillowcases, sheets, tablecloths, curtains, like you're including all these other things. But that's a shit ton.
That's that's so much stuff. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
use anything textile in my house. Some of it has holes and all that fun stuff, and I still use it, but I'm sure there's plenty of people out there who are like, "Oh, a hole, Imma toss it."
Or a stain.
Or a stain, yes.
Or they just
Oh,
don't want it anymore and they throw it away.
that blows my mind.
And that might be something, if you're interested, Morgan, you could cover in your Curbing Climate Change series, is
Mhm.
like clothes waste and things like that. But so as millennials are want to do, we're waking up and realizing the systems that don't work and the things that are bad for our planet. So naturally, a lot of people are realizing this, and there's been a big push, and I would say the last 5 years, especially 10 years, um, to really be pushing secondhand shopping.
Mhm.
So that's your thrift stores, flea markets, independent sellers online, eBay. I mean, there's tons of apps for it now. Facebook Marketplace is really big. Um, so yeah, it's really good to buy secondhand. I think a lot of people realize it. We won't really get into right now the problems with making it the cool thing to do. And like now it's just fashionable to get everything thrifted.
Yeah.
There are problems within that it's like driving the price up for the people who actually need to buy secondhand because it's more affordable to them.
Yeah.
Because when we, as white women, Morgan, do anything, capitalism just really gets off on it, and they're like, oh, we can charge a lot more. Because white women are doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Also, to play devil's advocate, on the other hand, so much of what gets donated to thrift stores gets thrown away anyway. So the problem is really with the capitalism of them driving the prices up when they don't need to. They get all their inventory for free. Than with these people making it trendy. And that's a big part of that 16.9 million tons that we were talking about.
Wait, so thrift stores will throw clothes away if they don't take all of them?
From what I have gathered, so, I mean, what doesn't sell at certain Goodwills might get sent to other Goodwills or thrift stores in general. I realized when I was doing research on this that a lot of people think Goodwill is problematic. I think Salvation Army is problematic because they have anti-LGBTQ things and they support like conversion camps from what I have read. But people are saying that Goodwill is problematic too, so I want to look more into that. But I know there are Goodwill outlet stores, which basically get a whole bunch of things that weren't selling at other Goodwills, and they literally just bring out bins and bins of things, like massive, that are just on wheels, and people dig through them. And you buy things by the pound because they just want to get rid of stuff. And I know that there are a lot of the times, like, I have heard, this doesn't really relate to my topic, but it relates to clothing waste. Like when there's a Super Bowl or a World Series or something like that in the United States, different clothing companies, so that they have it ready to go, will make merchandise for both teams as if they won. And then whichever team didn't win, they'll send that off to like various countries in Africa, various countries in Asia, Africa especially because the United States treats third world countries as a dumping ground.
Yeah.
They'll send it all there. And a lot of the times, like, those people don't need our garbage.
Right.
That's another topic for another time. But so basically, that knowledge of all of this clothing waste and a lot more people transitioning to a vegan lifestyle, which I touched on in the first episode of this series. And if you haven't listened to that, I highly recommend it. Kind of sets up, especially if you don't know a lot about veganism, it sets up my opinions, certain definitions, frequently asked questions, all that jazz. So with more of these people transitioning to a vegan lifestyle where they want to avoid using animal products in whatever way they can, one, advice to those people as you're transitioning to veganism, please don't throw away if you have clothing that's leather, if you have shoes that are suede, if you have a down sleeping bag, please don't throw it away just because you're transitioning to veganism. That's not healthy for the planet. It's not healthy for your wallet. You know, you already have those things. You've already purchased those things. And this, I guess, is going to go really quickly into how I view it. Like, the animal has already suffered for it, and it doesn't do anyone any good if you just throw it away.
So it's at that point of like, if you buy more, you're the one who's making them produce more. If you've already bought it, I mean, it's already done, been had, and nothing you can do will change it. So why waste it?
Right. So I'll get into in a little bit some of the arguments on both sides as to people who say, yeah, it's okay, like, as long as it's secondhand and you're not directly contributing to this industry, go for it. And then other people who will say, even if it's secondhand, you're creating the image that it's okay to do this and it's okay to wear it. I guess we can just get into that now since we're talking about it.
Yes.
So here are some of the pros that I found in a few of these articles. So one, like I just said, you are not directly contributing to the demand for new leather. You're not directly contributing to the demand for suede or wool or anything like that when you buy secondhand. And, my opinion, it's there already. On top of that, like we discussed, a lot of this clothing, even that gets donated, doesn't end up going into new hands, doesn't end up getting reused or recycled. It will just fill up landfills. So by taking that out of a thrift store, you're in a lot of ways taking things out of a landfill. If your friend is like, hey, I can't fit into this leather jacket anymore, do you want it? You're saving that from a landfill potentially. There's that's my general feel on this is, like I said, it's already there. One point I found very interesting is, so by the same argument I just made, then I could wear a secondhand fur coat. But the thought of wearing a fur coat makes me so uncomfortable and makes me so heartbroken and sad.
Yeah.
That I will never do it. I thought about it because one of my mom's friends was getting rid of a fur coat. It fit me. And I was like, this is Phoebe has this exact conundrum in Friends. It's
Love
secondhand.
Love the reference. Yeah.
It's secondhand. Yeah. But I was like, I can't do it. And also I feel like even more you'll run into, I don't know how popular it is nowadays, but like back in the 90s, people would throw red paint on anybody they thought was wearing real fur.
Mm-hmm.
So that just wasn't a conflict I was willing to have out in the world.
You don't want to get paint thrown on you. Just don't go into a Hobby Lobby.
I don't go into Hobby Lobby for other reasons, but
True. But
anyway, we're gonna get back on track. They pointed out that there's a cognitive dissonance, so it's a lot easier. I think the exact example they gave was, instead of wearing a fur coat, if you're wearing a down-filled coat, it's a lot easier for your brain to make it okay because you're not directly seeing those feathers. You're not directly faced with it. A lot of leather jackets don't look like cow skin. A wool sweater doesn't look like a sheep. Snakeskin boots still look like snakeskin. Alligator bags still look like alligators, like all that kind of stuff. But all of these other things, it's real easy for that cognitive dissonance to happen of like, well, but this one's okay, but this one's not okay. It makes your brain freak out a little bit. Mm-hmm. And one of the articles I was reading, she was like, I know that everybody always talks about being vegan and or vegans always talk about being vegan and like all this stuff. And she's like, but you're faced every day because we live in a world that is not vegan. You're faced with constantly, especially how inundated with ads we are. You're just being thrown all of these choices every single day, and everything becomes this big moral decision. Mm-hmm. And that gets really exhausting really quickly.
Quick. I know we were talking about this before we started recording. Sorry, but it made me think again about The Good Place, the show The Good Place.
Yes.
Just to kind of give a short summary, basically it's talking about the afterlife and the way that you get to either heaven or hell, quote unquote. They don't call it that because religious purposes, but the good place or the bad place. So the way that a human gets there is they rack up points while they're living on Earth. Mm-hmm. And kind of one of the things they start to figure out through the show is that the point system is really fucked up because someone could buy a tomato that, says is organic, but then it supports, some like anti-gay communist group or something like that, but they don't know because it's just a tomato, right. And they're like, oh, it's organic, it's safe and not killed by pesticides, but they didn't know. And you could do the research, but it would take you hours and hours and hours to research, and all you want is a damn tomato. Mm-hmm. But you're right, you face those decisions every day and you don't realize what decision is going to affect what, or where something came from, or it's hard to be human.
And before you know it, you're standing in a thrift store staring at a pair of leather boots that are super old, and you know that they're gonna stand up a lot better than those Forever 21 pair that you have in your closet right now that are already falling apart. And you're just gonna sit there staring at them for about 3 minutes, going into a spiral all about animal rights and animal suffering and poisoning the environment and your money, and you're broke because you work for a nonprofit and things are so hard, and why isn't art supported and all of these things, and you spiral very quickly.
This seems like a real life situation that you may or may not have experienced.
I have not directly had this. I imagine it happening very quickly because my Forever 21 boots are about to bite the dust.
All I can picture is just someone standing inside of like a Goodwill or some thrift store somewhere and just like standing, staring at something. Just 5-10 minutes passes by and they're like just standing there, staring. Like,
Mhm.
what the fuck?
Mhm.
So many decisions, so many
Yeah.
thoughts.
It's a lot. Another point I saw that I really appreciated was it was the same article where she was like, everything becomes this big moral dilemma. She was like, look, I'm all for shopping secondhand because like it's good for your wallet, it's better for the environment, and it creates less of, or one of the points that was like pro buying secondhand animal clothing. That makes it sound like clothing for animals, so I don't know what else to call it. Clothing from animals, animal suffering, is when you buy that secondhand, they're natural fibers. Same thing like hemp is a natural fabric, cotton is a natural fabric, but cotton is actually very environmentally taxing. I don't have to tell you that, Morgan. But creating less of a reliance on synthetic fabric can be better for the environment because of how it's made, and we don't really know how much it's made, and like all of these chemicals that go into it. And yeah, there's chemicals that goes into producing leather and things like that too. Nothing's perfect, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And everybody will have their own opinion, but I like the idea of I'm able to, it ticks off a lot of pros for me. And I promise I'll get into the cons. This is sounding very one-sided. I'm also realizing I need to like just type out what I want to say because I'm talking in circles a lot.
It's okay.
My notes, you can tell I'm a creative person because my notes are just all over the place on the page.
Just like circles of notes, just written in a big spiral.
I have just arrows pointing everywhere, things written on diagonals, like
those decision boxes, like, oh, if I say I should go this way.
Yep.
But if I say wait, I should go down.
Yes, yeah. Again, some of the reasons I'm for it, I've said this a million times already, but it's potentially taking things out of a landfill. It's not throwing something away just because it was the animal product, because that creates more waste, and then the animal suffering was even more in vain. So I can get something within my budget that's going to last a long time. So again, it lessens the need for me to keep buying things, especially synthetic things, because some of them are made really well and some of them aren't. Some of them are environmentally conscious, some of them aren't. So that's its own mental battle in and of itself. So some of the cons of it are, and I'm curious if there are people out there who agree with these cons, because I don't, and I guess I'll share why. So some things other people are saying is, well, if you take that leather jacket out of that local thrift store, you're taking it away from a non-vegan who really wants a leather jacket, and if they can't get it from the thrift store, they're just going to go out and buy a new leather jacket, killing more cows.
I guess I can see that point, but at the same time,
I feel like that's reaching.
Yeah, a little bit.
Another one is saying, well, people seeing you walk around in whatever animal clothing, let's just keep with the leather jacket for consistency. People seeing you walking around in that leather jacket, one, encourages people that like they like your leather jacket, so they're going to go buy a leather jacket, probably a new one. Or makes it look okay, makes leather look acceptable, makes all of this thing look acceptable. Or this third point is it's going to confuse people on veganism. And that one, I was like, that one feels a little bit preachy to me. Yeah.
I mean, people would have to know that you're a vegan. Like, it wouldn't just be everyday people on the street would be, what's veganism? I'm so confused. It would
So
just be your
you're
friends.
so you're a vegan, but you're wearing leather. Or I also think there's just this huge disconnect between, like I said in our last episode, there's a huge disconnect between people and their food, but there's also a huge disconnect between people and your clothes and all the other stuff you get, all the other stuff you buy. I'm guilty of this.
I do want to say that, like, on that second point, that's kind of the point that I was thinking about. Like, you wear it and then other people are like, oh my God, where'd you get that? And then that makes them want to buy it.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you're in a position like you're an influencer or someone who like sells fashion in a way, or you have a lot of influence over people, that's when you should kind of consider, maybe I shouldn't, because then people will also want it.
That's a really good point.
I think for people kind of like of everyday living, I feel like it would be okay. I mean, does that make sense?
I'm not gonna get photographed by Vogue walking down the streets of Cleveland?
Not until we're like 30 episodes into this podcast and thousands of people are watching. Then we'll have to cut it all off. But yeah, I can see how that would be an issue and a concern in today's society because of the visual focus. Yeah.
And the big influencer boom.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting point. And that's going to relate to something I'm going to get to in a little bit.
Smart one.
Yeah. So, and then the final point that I found in these cons were, which I think is the most valid, is some people just aren't comfortable wearing the skin of a dead feathers of a dead animal or something like that on their body. They look at it, that's all they can see, they don't feel comfortable, and I'm like, you do you, more power to you for all of these things.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason I don't agree with the first couple cons I mentioned is I don't think it's fair or healthy to imagine how do I put this? You're not responsible for other people's decisions.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's fair or healthy to keep that belief that you are responsible for other people's decisions. So something I wrote down, and which is, there's a YouTuber who talks about sustainability and low waste and zero waste and things like that. And she said something like this, and it really resonated with me. She was talking about in reference to zero waste, and instead of pushing it on all her family members and being like, why did you buy that tube of toothpaste when you could have had these toothpaste tabs? Or why are you not using biodegradable toilet paper? Why are you using another roll of paper towels in your kitchen? And like just going on and on and shaming people and bashing people and judging people. What do you get from doing that? That doesn't help your cause. I understand you're passionate. I appreciate that you're passionate. I appreciate that it means something to you. But a lot of the times, and this was mentioned in one of those articles, I'm talking in a circle again. I'm going to go back. So basically what this YouTuber said was, the best way to get people on board with you and your cause that you're so passionate about is to lead by example. And then if and when they ask you questions, be open. Granted, I want to do a little caveat in terms of race and gender and sexuality and things like that. Don't expect answers from people. It's not their job. I guess anything, don't expect answers from people, especially when you can Google and find reliable sources. But so by leading by example, it helps people really come to it naturally. They really appreciate what you're doing and they can see a lot more of the benefits behind it. And judging and shame doesn't work. Do you listen to Brene Brown? It doesn't work. It doesn't help anybody.
Well, shoot, that takes out my whole weekend. All I do is shame people. I just come across people on the street. Stop smoking, it's bad for you.
You go around dressed on the weekends like the shame nun from Game of Thrones with a big bell, and you just walk behind people.
Shame. Shame.
Oh, I thought you were gonna do one more.
Shame.
There we go.
Didn't mean to
Um,
leave you hanging there.
But yeah, that's what I'm trying to do with this series. I'm trying to open up conversation. I'm trying to learn more for myself. But yeah, there's gatekeeping in any social justice. I guess I'm not in the place to speak on that for any social justice. Gatekeeping tends to not help your cause. Oh, one of the things I wanted to point out about these cons, I made one of my little side creative notes that's kind of on its own thing. The point of people not comfortable wearing or using it because all they see is the torture and the dead animals. I made a note to myself that maybe I'm still working through some disassociation with it. So I think that's an interesting point to talk about because we are all so desensitized to it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a little nugget for everyone to think of. Someone on the comment of that article, in the comment section of that article, in reference to, oh, you doing it encourages other people to go out and buy it. They were like, yeah, but nobody knows if I'm wearing faux leather or faux suede or faux snakeskin or anything like that unless I tell them, especially with how well things are made now. And most things are faux. Like, almost any fur you see now in the main market, I guess, is faux.
Yeah.
So I thought that was an interesting point. But yeah, I feel like I am all over the place. I seriously need to just write down a paper for. But anyway, one of the other things this person brought up in this article was she asks herself 3 questions: who, what, and why. So who are you buying it from? And I think this is a good thing for all of us to practice for whatever your values and your passions are. So who are you buying it from? After I read this article, the note I wrote to myself was Goodwill - capitalist skis, but I love you. Because she was just like bashing on Goodwill and that was how isn't like how it sucks, but wasn't giving like a whole bunch of context. So I was like, okay, I need to definitely do more research on that. So she was like, or are you buying from individual sellers or flea markets or local thrift stores that are doing more for your local economy and helping small business? So that was a really interesting point to me too. And then they tend to also have more sustainable work practices, is what she said in this article. What are you buying? What is it made of? So in a lot of these instances, it's like, oh, leather or silk or da 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 da.
Mm-hmm.
And why are you buying this?
So that I won't be naked anymore.
I mean, you could just go to a nudist colony.
I could, yeah,
It might be cold, but
just a wee.
So then another note I have going off of that is, what is your why? That's yours and yours alone. And that's something I'm going to be quite honest with you. I don't like talking about this because I feel like, especially now, everyone's like, oh, this is my why, and da da da. It's so easy to present, especially in this influencer world and social media world. It's so easy to present that, like, you're on your shit 100% of the time and you don't fuck up, or like, you don't accidentally eat something with dairy in it, or you don't accidentally, like, you didn't realize these shoes were real suede or something.
Mm-hmm.
It's also very hard to get shoes that are vegan. Just like as a little side note, a lot of shoes are leather and suede and things like that. So it's in lots of areas of my life, it's always been really hard for me to stick to my why. That's something I encourage myself and all of you to examine and remember, because everybody's why is different and no one else's why is going to affect yours. So yeah, I feel like I've been talking for a while, kind of just like chaotically, but one of the quotes the quote I wanted to end my little thing with was from that first medium.com article. And it's, quote, going vegan ultimately isn't a performance. It isn't about feeling morally superior to other vegans or non-vegans. It isn't about being special. This movement is open for anyone, anywhere, wherever they're at on their journey. Anyone who says they have the manual is just working off their own personal experiences, their own support system, finances, and location. If we're gatekeeping veganism, we're doing animals a disservice. That really resonated with me because I feel like a lot of vegans tend to get very preachy. They tend to get very shaming. You don't know what everybody's situations are. There are some areas where there are food deserts, or you're working 3 jobs, or you have to be on food stamps, or you don't have time or space to store this food, or those leather boots might be the only ones you can get right now. So it's really not fair to project your opinions on how someone else should live their life, especially when you don't know.
That's my job. Nah.
But no, that's why I think these conversations are important, because by starting these conversations, we're able to learn what challenges people are facing. And once we learn about them, we can address them. And yeah, I think welcoming people to different advocacies and supporting them where they're at, and also encouraging them to grow at the same time, because that is possible, I think that's the best course of action.
You made me think about my shoes. I was Googling vegan shoes, and I was like, I'm going to have to get rid of all my shoes.
No, because that creates more waste.
I know. But no, I was actually checking them. I just got some new tennis shoes because mine fell apart, literally fell apart. So no one can rewear them.
Yep.
I wore them to holes.
Yeah.
But I just bought some shoes from this company called, I want to say Incas.
Okay.
It's Inkkas. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. But I went through them for the shoes because all of their shoes are made in South America, and they have really cool designs that kind of honor their culture. Ooh. They're all made by local people there. So they're like, I don't want to say they're made to order. I'm sure they have some stocked, but they're like handmade they plant a tree for every shoe that you buy, every pair of shoes that you buy. Ooh. And I was trying to see if their shoes are all vegan because I thought they were, but they do have a section of vegan shoes that are super cool.
Okay.
And I feel like you should check them out because I think they start out as like hiking boot store or shoe company. I couldn't find any boots that were vegan, but they're really cool looking. They're really sturdy. I've heard nothing but good things about them, and I love my shoes so far. So, but you really made me think about a bunch of things: clothing, shoes, so many shoes.
Yeah, but yeah, someone in that comment section of that one article with the pros and the cons, a lot of people were like, yeah, but a lot of the times the synthetic things don't hold up as well, which is a argument you hear a lot from non-vegans.
Right.
I don't know how much I agree with that because it all depends on the initial quality of how the product was made, and most of the time higher quality comes with a higher price tag. So in a lot of these, I feel like a lot of people who embrace veganism tend to be in the kind of financial situation we're in as young adults. And it's very hard to go out and spend $75 on vegan, sustainably made shoes that are going to last a long time, that you can wear till they have holes in them. And also, like, that's a whole nother thing on poverty. It's very expensive to be poor in the United States because you can only afford the poorly made things, and then they keep falling apart and you have to keep buying them because you can't afford that one big ticket purchase.
Right.
And so it's wrong to think that veganism is a one size fits all thing. With any type of advocacy and social justice movement, you have to be willing to meet people where they're at. I think that's the most effective. I think that's the most sustainable. I think that's the way to get people to really stick with it. Because I mean, there are people who have struggled with eating disorders. I was about to like compare them, but I don't want to compare eating disorders. All of them are a disorder.
Right.
Who in their recovery practicing veganism in their diet would be a huge trigger for that eating disorder. It's not fair to say everybody has to live this way because that's the way I think you should. You can definitely present your argument. I highly encourage you to research your argument, learn more, create these open conversations, and if you find a hole like that, do something to fill it.
I did, Casey. It was shoes.
Yay, shoes!
But no, you're right. And I mean, it kind of touches base with what we talked about in last week's episode. Even though it's based on the environment, it's like all this, greenwashing and stuff, and making these eco-friendly products more expensive that people can't buy them. It's not that they don't want to try it. It's not that they can't try it. It's just where they're at this point in their life. They can't. They can't give it a go. And obviously veganism is not for everyone, but you're right, it doesn't mean that you can't put some effort into, helping to stop the harm of animals. There are plenty of things you could do out there other than just food wise that you can do to help.
Yeah, tons of things. The list is never ending. I mean, even if you just do meatless Mondays, that makes an impact. I think, again, everything is so intertwined and you can't talk about anything in a vacuum, or it's so hard to talk about anything in a vacuum because with all of us having this ingrained capitalism, at least in the United States, it's like, oh, you have to be doing the best or like you're doing fuck all. And
yeah,
that's not healthy, that's not sustainable, that's not practical. And again, with everything being capitalized, especially like all of these vegan things or all of these sustainably made fashion things that are so much more expensive because they're made with higher quality things, they're made with like people being paid a living wage, it's again all this stuff, but people are made to feel like, oh, if I want to take my own utensils to a restaurant, I have to buy like these fancy glamorous bamboo set. It's like, no, you can go to a thrift store and get a fork, a knife, a spoon, and a set of chopsticks.
Yeah.
And like use a shirt you don't want anymore and like make a cover for it. Or there's so many things you can do. And now we're talking a lot about sustainability, but one of the things in sustainability is people have glamorized these things, I've noticed, and it's a lot of white women doing this, and I think their hearts are in the right place and I love what they're doing. I think we also have to realize how we're portraying things, but it's become cool, it's become trendy, and that's why all of these products are coming out. But also, it's what poor people have been doing for generations because that's what they can afford. Like they have to keep using that peanut butter jar to store things in their fridge because they're not going to go out and spend $50 on a set of Pyrex, or they're not going to go and constantly buy new mason jars. It's like, get your mason jars from the thrift store.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm all for thrifting, if you couldn't tell.
I'm all for thrifting. There's a service here in Austin. I can't remember what it's called right now. I can follow up in the next episode with the actual title, but they do like bulk supplies, and they do like a delivery service where they have mason jars full of like spices or just mostly pantry type items. They also have like meal service stuff, kind of like how HelloFresh does, but it's all sustainable. But basically they'll drop off a jar of spice for you to either put in your own jars, or you can use it out of whatever jar they gave you. And then when you're done with that, you give the jar back, and then they take it, wash it, and then, use it for somebody else.
The milkman back in the day.
Yeah. So
not that we're advocating milk. Milk is for cow babies, not for human people. Your body's literally not meant to drink it.
Right. But I mean, that's something that I'm definitely wanting to try. I still have a bunch of spices in my pantry that are in tiny plastic containers. So once I get rid of those,
that's really cool.
Switch over. But yeah, I mean, but that's just pointing out that there are so many things nowadays that they didn't have back then that help us, support animal welfare or sustainable living, whatever way you're looking at it. There are things you can do to help. Yes, there are a lot of expensive options, but just because it's the most expensive doesn't mean that it's the best option. So
Yeah, like the best option is to use what you have right now. That's the best option.
Use it until there's holes in it. I literally wore those tennis shoes that fell apart until like until my foot popped out of the bottom. Like the rubber soles on the bottom popped off, and then I was like running weird because one had them and the other one didn't, and then it just fell to pieces. But I used it until I couldn't use it anymore. So it's possible. They were still functioning. Just because they didn't look great doesn't mean that they didn't do what they were supposed to.
Yes.
And that's important to remember in an aesthetic age like this one. Just because it doesn't look great anymore doesn't mean you can't still use it.
Yeah.
Or use it for another purpose.
Yeah. This is something I'm practicing more recently is when you want something, try to find it secondhand first. If you really love that your influencer is wearing your favorite influencer is wearing a black leather jacket in their picture and you're like, that looks really fucking cool. Go to a thrift store first. Try to find one. If you're comfortable with that, you don't have to be comfortable with that. But also, a lot of leather jackets are faux.
True.
I have this glorious faux suede jacket in my closet that's got fringe. I feel like a 70s badass bitch whenever I wear it. It's amazing. It's one of my favorite things ever. It's faux.
But here's the other thing on that. It's not like a leather jacket is ever going to actually save your life for anything.
That's true.
So, I mean, these aren't life or death type choices that you're making. Just because your influencer is wearing something leather doesn't mean you're going to die at 35, never having been popular. That's just not the way it works.
Right.
So it's important to keep that in mind as well. Just general practicality. I'm not saying you can't look cool. You can definitely get stuff secondhand and look as badass as you want, but doesn't mean that you have to succumb to society's ads everywhere ads.
Maybe if we all rise up against the ads, like eventually they'll go away.
Yes. Oh my god. But no, there was a lot.
Yeah, and I mean, like, even speaking of what we just said, it's become profitable for clothing and shoes and all of these other things and skincare and makeup. It's a huge selling point for it to be vegan. Because, I mean, even if there are people who haven't made the transition to eating less or eating no animal products, a lot of them are still like, no, I won't wear fur, or no, I won't wear leather, or I love that people are educating themselves more and people are more inclined to start caring about things outside themselves.
I mean, it's like the gluten-free boom of 2010 or whenever that started becoming a thing. Gluten-free stuff everywhere, and they're like, I only eat gluten-free. But there are legitimate people out there who have a damn gluten allergy.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, people, eating gluten does not make you fat, okay?
Nope.
It's how much food you eat that can make you overweight. It's not about the ingredient. People have been living with gluten for a long time, and people in the 50s and 60s were much smaller than the rest of America today. So
lots of processed sugar is our big problem, and like everything pumped full of all the animal byproducts pumped full of growth hormones. And
right. But you're right. People are trying to capitalize on veganism, and a lot of people don't understand it. But that's why people are listening to our podcast.
Yes.
To hear Casey tell you the truth about what it means to be vegan.
And it's an open conversation. I highly encourage everyone, especially like, I don't know everything. I'm a human. There's no way I can know everything, even with Google at my disposal. There's no way. I mean, didn't you hear how disorganized my notes were? Like, share your knowledge with me.
Yes, we're always open to learn, and we should be. Everyone should be open to learning. Always open to learning.
I love learning.
Me too. Aren't we the learning generation? That's why most of us went to college, is because we love learning.
Oh, really?
I don't know.
Did you just make that up?
I made it up. I pulled that fact out of the big book of podcast facts.
Yes.
Although that's something that we can discuss at a later date. I know I did read something the other day about millennials having this urge to succeed. And that's why we've all like gone to college, because our parents have told us our whole lives we basically won't be anything unless we go to college. So that's
And then we graduate from college and get entry-level jobs that make almost minimum wage.
Yeah.
Or make just above minimum wage.
Again, discussion for another day, but it kind of supports my pulled out of my ass fact.
Yeah.
It's definitely not true, but yeah. The more you know.
The more you know. All right, Morgan, we had a lot of serious conversation. You want to hit us with a Hoosier Hurrah, since we sometimes forget to do that?
Yeah, I would love to cheer people up with a Hoosier Hurrah. I think this past week, my Hoosier Hurrah is going to have to be getting to do another short film. Even with pandemic stuff in the way, it's really exciting to just kind of get back into the artist world. Don't worry, we're still doing it safe. We understand it's still out there. So it's like really small crew, really short script, but I'm excited and ready to be an artist again in this strange new world. What about you, Casey?
I'm trying to think of mine, but I did have a question for you. I don't know if you can share with us the premise of the short film, but like, what's the genre?
It is, I would say, sort of it's not quite a thriller. There's nothing that makes you want to jump out of your seat. It's a little bit scary, but it's kind of more of a drama. It's on a realism front.
Okay.
And it has to deal a lot with people. This is going to bring it down slightly, but people who may have known somebody who died of suicide, and just kind of like living with that grief and not being able to know, like, could I have helped them or something like that. Again, short film, it's 4 minutes, so it sounds like a lot, but
I think that's a very important topic.
Yeah. But again, it's like, it's got some insert shots of like scariness, but it deals with a real topic, so I'm pretty excited about it.
Very nice.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make I'm a recovering consumer and I recently relapsed, so I'm trying not to make my Hoosier Hurrah like a material thing. Oh, I know what I'll say. I guess I'll do 2 things. Can I do 2 things?
Of course you can.
I can do 2 things.
Yeah, you can do whatever the fuck you want. It's our podcast.
So one is, this is going to be like my 1A and 1B, and then I'm going to have a number 2 because I keep realizing I'm like, oh, I have more. So yesterday in the world that we're recording this was October 9th, and on October 9th, 4 years ago in 2016, I adopted my cat Chester. And that little dude has been with me through some of the hardest fucking things. And I'm getting emotional, but I'm so goddamn grateful for this cat.
I just have to say, for all of the listeners out there, that I know you can't see what's been happening, but Chester's been like in and out of the video screen all day today. So it's been a good time. He's adorable.
Yes. But I think he's getting excited that he's getting a lot more playful, and so that's always exciting for me to see, because he tends to be a pretty chill cat. So when he gets hyped, I'm like, yes, I love it. So then my part 2 of my Hoosier Hurrah is, a couple weeks ago I started reading the first fiction book I've read in years, probably, and I've just been devouring it, and I'm almost finished with it. It's called Where the Crawdads Sing. It was the one that everybody was talking about like last year. Highly recommend. I'm almost done. It's a little bit of a murder mystery. It's also a coming of age story, and it's really helping me through some things, and it's written very beautifully, and it's also very nature focused. So I highly recommend that.
Sounds soothing.
Yeah.
But also thrilling. especially if it's a murder mystery.
And it's set in the marshes of like South Carolina. So I know it's not Cajun, but I keep wanting to read things in a Cajun accent, like Michael Scott from that one Office episode where they do the murder mystery party. I'm Kayla Crawdad, and that is not a Cajun accent at all, but there's been a murder. A murder.
I love it. So many Office references. So little time.
We're millennials. That's what we do.
That's true. That's very true. The Office, Friends, they're all fair game. SpongeBob.
Oh, yeah.
So many
2
SpongeBob
hours later.
But anyways, Casey, I think you made some amazing points today. And I hope that everyone shares these points from our socials, on our socials, on your socials.
On my socials?
On your socials. No, on our audience socials. Share it, like it, follow us on all of our socials. I'm just gonna keep confusing people. It's fine.
Rate us. Comment.
Yes. Rate
like us.
Give us 5 stars. Leave some comments. Talk to us. We're in dead space out here, people. Come on.
Yeah. Morgan and I are just staring at a screen, talking to each other. Like, help us out.
Seriously.
Let us know what you want to hear. We've got a ton of ideas in the works. I'm currently working on a massive Google spreadsheet, and I'm so excited. It's going to be color-coded, and there's going to be multiple tabs. I'm pumped.
I mean, listen, people, we are getting our shit together, and we want you to get yours together by listening to us more often.
Yes. That's all you have to do. We're the magic cure.
Yeah. And you know what? The amazing thing is that you can do it pretty much anywhere you listen to podcasts, which includes Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Anchor.fm. I mean, you kind of can't lose on that situation.
Nope, not at all. And we don't have ads yet. So listen while you can. It's going to be really funny if someone's listening to this like 6 months from now and we have ads.
It's going to happen. Eventually it'll happen. But you know what? If you're listening to this now, in this time, during a pandemic of 2020, then you're golden. Ooh, 2020. The year that will never again be discussed. But yeah. But you guys, I mean, we're also on all of the social media, even though we insult it all the time and how much of a terrible influence it is. We all know you're on it. If you're going to spend time on it, you might as well find us on Twitter at Millennial Mopod. Because why, Casey?
Because you always want Mopod.
Whoop, whoop. We're hip like that. You can also find us on Facebook at Millennial Monologue Podcast and on Instagram at Millennial Monologue Podcast. And guys, this is great because in a world of a pandemic, you can't talk face to face, but you can email people, and you can email us at millennialmonologuepodcast@gmail.com.
At gmail.com.
At gmail.com. You can talk to us.
Yeah, it'll be like you're here.
Yep.
Don't you want to be here?
Yes, I do. You have seasons in Cleveland. Oh, you just made the podcast. Okay, yeah. Yeah. Oh my God.
So funny.
Losing it.
We're working on being more consistent with our episode drops, launches. What's the podcast lingo? Releases? Episodes?
Sure. I think it's just episodes.
But yeah, Morgan is doing an amazing job. She's taking on so much and she's so busy, and I'm very grateful for her in this season of my life where things have been hard, and things are hard for her and things are hard for all of us. So we're with you. We're thinking about you. Make sure you keep up with Black Lives Matter. Make sure you vote. Please vote. Get everyone you know to vote. And remember that your advocacy doesn't stop after you vote.
Nailed it.
Also, something I just learned, I know I'm so bad with the Hoosier goodbyes. I just keep talking. I recently read an article that was, I don't know if you just heard my kitten.
No, I didn't.
But I recently read an article that was explaining how it will be it is more difficult for Native American people, especially those who live on reservations, which again, fault of the US government that they even have reservations, but that's a different topic for a different time. It's very challenging for them to vote, period, especially with mail-in ballots. So see what you can do to help advocate for Native Americans. All times, and especially now when voting is so important. And 6
True.
million people have already voted. That's amazing.
But not enough.
Right, we need everyone.
There are
Yes.
millions and millions and millions of people in America. So
Mhm.
do it. Do your part.
That sounds good.
Let's do it.
Bye.
Bye. I don't know why I get a neck pain.